and welcome to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty. I'm an ADHD coach, and I specialize in working with people who have ADHD and executive function challenges. This is episode 163. 163. Oh my gosh. And looks a little bit different. If you're a regular viewer or listener, if you're really just the viewer, because if you're listening, you can't tell it's different. This episode, we are talking about some ADHD-friendly gift wrapping tips to support you if you have gifts to wrap this holiday season or throughout the year, right? But really going to be focusing on holidays specifically, but these are great for anytime you need to wrap gifts. I call these tips from an amateur with ADHD because I am not one of those people that is like really into the details of making a beautiful, like you don't want to touch it because it's so pretty. Mm-hmm. I'm the opposite. I have very little tolerance for it. But I thought that probably is a lot of my people. So we're just going to share some things that can make your gifts look just a little bit more, maybe like you spent a little bit of thought or time on them. So I'm going to start this episode, as I always do, with a celebration. And it's a celebration about my brain not working. And I'm just going to share how I am really happy that I tend to view what I learn about things about my brain that don't work in a positive way and get excited about how to take that information and use it to support myself. Not always, but typically that's been my experience. So I want to lean into that and just acknowledge something new I've learned about my brain that I'm super excited about, even though it's highlighting something that doesn't work. Clearly. All right. And then as always, I will share my book of the week pick. So let's start with the celebration. So I was watching The Roosevelts, which is that Ken Burns documentary on PBS. Yeah. And there was an episode where he was preparing to send troops over to Europe to support the war effort. We weren't in the war yet, but he was training US troops to go over and support, to kind of, he saw the writing on the wall, knowing that we were going to be pulled into this war. He was starting to prepare and have the troops trained. And they showed a video clip of troops training here, like the military bases here. And they were out in a big field. And they had this truck go by. It was one of those canopy covered trucks that, like the troop kind of transporters. They all sit in the back covered with the big tarp. And on the side of the truck, it had a giant banner with the word tank on it. So it was the people, the soldiers were training as though that was a tank, because the tanks were all over in Europe. They couldn't train with the actual tanks. So they had a truck that was supposed to be a tank. And I had this visceral reaction watching. I was like, oh no, that would not work for me. I can't do that. I can't look at the truck and see it as a tank. Even if you put the word tank on it, right? It's not a tank. And I had this, I literally paused it and I was like, what is that? Because I do that. I've done it my whole life. I never liked playing with Barbie dolls because it's like, what is this doll? It's not a baby. I know how to play with a baby doll. It's not a life-size doll. It's a Barbie doll that I had to take and pretend it was a person. Like it never worked for me. I always hated Barbie dolls. Yeah. So I grabbed my computer and I looked up on ChatGPT. Yeah. I put in the examples that I could think of off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. And I asked if there was a term for this and how it was described. And there is. Ooh. I'm not diagnosing myself. I don't think this is a diagnosable thing, but when I read it, I was so stinking excited because it gave me a name and examples and it helped me to pin down information. So it said it's called Symbolic Reasoning Challenges. Ooh. And it talked about how with symbolic reasoning challenges, you could have trouble with kind of, taking that image and making sense of it if it's representing something else. And that's totally me. It talked about having trouble with directions, depending on how they're given and following them. So a lot of not everything in the list, but it gave me 8 different examples of situations. And I would say 6 of the 8 were totally describing me. And I was so excited because it finally kind of pinned down what I've always known I've struggled with. Another example was that you don't think of other solutions to challenges. And that's always been something that is probably one of my most embarrassing blind spots, where if I go to do something and let's say like simple example, my car didn't work. Mm-hmm. Well, then I can't go. it won't occur to me to ask somebody else, can I take your car? Like
Right.
literally like the most obvious thing in the world. I'm so focused on that car did not start. There's nothing I can do to make that car start. I therefore can't go. And like my husband might say like, well, take my car or take like, and I know that's like an extreme example, but I have done that before where it just doesn't even occur to me to move to this very obvious solution. I get fixated on the one thing and it didn't work. So now there's nothing else I can do. And I just got super excited about it. So then I asked my chat GPT. I'm having so much fun with chat GPT. I'm just using it for very specific things, but the very specific things I'm using it for, it is very sparkly. So I asked it if there were any exercises that I could do to try to learn more about that, but also to maybe strengthen that area that is a real weakness for me. And I found this workbook, the Logic workbook for gritty kids. And so my chat GPT said that if I work on some spatial reasoning, it can inadvertently support symbolic reasoning. And so the very first chapter in this workbook is on spatial reasoning. And it starts you out just like it shows you like a picture of one thing and you find the other that's the exact same. I enjoy that kind of thing. It takes a little bit of mental effort, but I could do it because this is for ages 6 to 10. And then I got to this exercise here, this little guy. So you had to look at these. This is like a side view, like you're looking at like a stack of like blocks, if you will. And then you have to look at the pictures on the bottom, and this is looking at the stack from the top down and decide which ones on the bottom represent the stack that you're looking at the side of on the top. There's 6 of them. This about made my brain break. I got 1 out of the 6 correct. This so highlighted my challenge. I took a snapshot and I sent it to my my husband and my son, just so they'd have it to try to do on their own. And they both sent it back and they had all 6 correct. And I was like, yeah, that's
I have issues with that too, for me.
and so I'm finding this, and there's certain exercises. I got to one exercise and here is like, I was like, no, I'm not even going to do that, because it was this guy where you had to connect the ropes and say how many ropes were tying these together. And I just looked at it and I was completely overwhelmed. I was like, no, I'm not doing that one. But I did the haystack one and I got them wrong at first. And then my son explained it to me and now I understand it and I could get them right, where you had to count the ones you can't see. It's a symbolic, it's like representing and it's not there. I'm like, oh, so that was very sparkly. Again, it's just a fun way that I'm finding to try to lean in. And I just wanted to underline, keep using the word underline. It's like a theme, guys. I'm aware of it. I'm going to work on it. I want to highlight how learning things that we struggle with can be an opportunity to lean into it and figure out ways to better support it, or to have an explanation, not an excuse like I can't do that. I could be, that's challenging for me. I'm going to need to write that down so that my brain can work with it in the way I need to. But the symbolic reasoning also helped me to understand why I had such a hard time learning how to knit. And I always shared how I took lessons, I watched videos, I bought books, I tried for years to learn how to knit. And it wasn't until somebody sat right next to me and had enormous patience and was very kind and watched me as I knitted and helped me to make sure I was getting the pattern down, going in the right direction and doing it correctly, that I felt really comfortable asking for help when I wasn't sure. And is this what it's supposed to look like? Because I couldn't hold it in my mind, because working memory is another thing that's tied to symbolic reasoning. I had a lot of ahas that I thought were kind of tied to ADHD. And I realized, well, part of it with the working memory could be because it said a lot of people that have impacted executive function skills, which we do with ADHD, can have struggles with symbolic reasoning. So I'm sharing that little bit of information as well, in case that's something that is sparkly for you, because it can be something that's tied in with executive function challenges. All right, so what did I purchase this week? I already dropped it. I purchased the workbook, which was, I think it was like $10 on Amazon, totally worth it. Surprisingly challenging since it's for 6 to 10-year-olds. And I also requested one from the library that I'm gonna try some other exercises. It's for adults, but it specifically talks about symbolic reasoning, so I'm excited about that. All right, so here is a tool for this week. Learning about your brain's weaknesses, flipping it into a strategy. So just like I talked about in my win, but doing it intentionally to be able to support yourself. So I always think about hiding our weakness as keeping us small and keeping us stuck. And it can link to being ashamed of things that are out of our control. We have to acknowledge whatever our brain wiring is and then work with it, not against it. That's how we strive to thrive instead of struggle and get stuck. So I always say understanding things provides us with that explanation so that we can connect to what we need and really advocate for ourselves in those areas. So it might be like somebody might say something that can sound really judgmental, like, oh my gosh, do you really need to write that down? And I'll say, yes, I actually do. And I was reminded again, I was watching football. It's really weird. I've been watching football with my husband lately on just not the whole thing, but just like, maybe like 10, 15 minutes, or maybe even I'm going to call it a period because I like hockey, a quarter. Thank you. And I just love that when the quarterbacks have that little wrist thing and they're like looking at their notes. I'm like, I used to literally fantasize when I was a kid about having an arm notepad built into my arm. I didn't even think about it being a fake one. I could just rubber band around it. I like literally wanted my arm to be a notepad, and I've shared how I've seen people get tattoos with lines and stuff. And I just love anything. But when you think about somebody judging, that's about them, not about you. It's about being like, yeah, I'm going to write it down and then I'm going to be able to do it. So let's not judge. Right. I always like to kind of bat it back at them, and in a nice way, be like, oh, judge much? Yeah, I'm going to write it down because that's what I need to do, instead of just, feeling like, oh, I don't want to write it down because then they're going to look at me and think, well, what, you can't remember? No, I can't. So I'm going to write it down. I wrote down the book. So I shared a minute ago that I requested the book. It's called Think Smart, a neuroscientist's prescription for improving your brain's performance. And it's by Richard Sestak, Sestak. I don't have it yet. I can't say if I recommend it, but it looked really good. It had good reviews. It didn't have a ton. I think it had like 100 reviews. But I mean, not a lot of people are looking at a neuroscientist's way of improving your brain. But that's my kind of thing. I love that kind of thing. So that was what I wanted to share. So I have a couple of more examples of symbolic reasoning challenges, if this is an area that is resonating for you. So they have, this is my chat GPT examples. It gave me specifics. I asked it to give me what some challenges were and give me examples. So one of them was around the executive functions. They said struggling to prioritize steps in a project without clear, concrete instructions, because it's hard to mentally represent the whole process. Checkbox. Yes. I always say, and when I'm working with students, I encourage them, if I notice they're struggling to get started on a project, I always ask your professor if there's a completed example that you have, some representation to get you going. Difficulty with abstract or conceptual thinking. So struggling to think about the future, like envisioning your goals. And this comes up for a lot of us. We can't see the future. We can't envision what that future looks like, or being confused by it. So we need concrete examples of what does that even look like, right? So it's like I want to be happy. Well, what does happiness look like for you? We have to make it really concrete. The math challenges, they talked about it really around like algebra. So it could be like how like X represents a number, or, the answer can be difficult. So they said, how does that represent the part of the whole can be challenging, and fractions, they said, are also hard, or could be hard. Difficulty with problem solving and adaptability. So this was the one I just loved. They said getting stuck when a preferred tool or method isn't available, and struggling to find alternative solutions independently. Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one I wanted to share was mental flexibility and cognitive rigidity. So that's an executive function specific strength or weakness. And they said that you might need a specific tool for a task, or feel unable to do it without that specific thing, where other tools could work, but you're really like having a difficult time being flexible. So that's kind of going from my example of not even seeing it to, even if I know that the other option is there, resisting it. Yeah. Because it's not the thing I want to use. So it might be like, I have an erasable pen, but it's not the color I want. So like, I'll like sit and I'm like, I don't have any colors left that I want to write with. And yeah, I've got like 5 pens that are erasable, but I won't use them because they're not the colors I want. So that's that. Just, kind of leaning into what works for you as a way to use it as a tool. As a reminder, if you haven't had a chance and you're interested in a little bit more support around your ADHD, I invite you to check out the ADHD-Friendly membership. Go to ADHD-Friendly.com for more information if you want to support yourself to struggle less and thrive more. All right, so now on to the main topic today. We're going to dive into some gift wrapping tips.
Ooh.
And I'm going to talk about some first and a little demo, like a little like tool that I've set up to share. So the first little bit of tips are around getting set up. So if you are wrapping gifts this holiday season, and I have one of my kiddos' birthdays, my husband's and my daughter's birthday are around the holidays. It might just be that you have some birthdays that you're wrapping gifts for, but get set up first. So the first tip is to find a clear, flat surface.
Yeah.
I have to say, it is a game changer if you give yourself permission. And if you're like wrapping on like a carpeted floor or like on your bed, it can work, but it doesn't work as nicely as a flat surface will work. A flat surface is going to allow you to really pull, if you're wrapping actual gifts, pull that wrapping paper nice and tightly where you're not going to end up with like little bunches and gaps and airspace in between, so that the wrapping paper itself is going to stay nice and crisp and not have those kind of wrinkles within it. Gather all your materials first. So that leads to my next thing that I'm going to share. So they recommend, I found lots of different tips, but just having everything within your reach. So you're not wrapping and then you're like, oh, I need to write down who this is for. And you're just like, I'll do that later. And then you forget what's in the gift that you wrapped or who it was for. Such a hassle. So have everything around you that you might need before you even start. And so tip 3 on getting set up is to create a gift wrapping caddy. So have everything in a portable bin or cart to get yourself motivated and started, and have everything at your fingertips ready to go. And so I wanted to share, I've transformed this same cart I used a couple of weeks ago for my, what did I share? Was it the picture organizing?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's no longer pictures because I dumped it there over in a bin. Something else I'll have to clean up later. But I've done this before, and I decided just to lean into it for the holiday season, and it's a gift wrap caddy. Oh, you can't really see the whole thing here. Let me like put it through so you can see all the wrapping papers on the side in a little, I'm going to tilt here. You can edit this out if it doesn't look good. It's on a little stand on my cart that just hooks onto the side of the cart. I apologize for it moving around like that, guys. And then in the front, you can see it has these little drawers. And one of my favorite things, so this is an alpha cart. If you're interested in the actual cart that I have, you can go to containerstore.com and check out their options. That depends on how you configure it, how much they are. They're typically for one this size, and they have narrower ones, they have wider ones. The little racks that hang on the side will fit on any of them. This is, I think, the medium width. And I want to say this is probably anywhere from like 180 to 230 or so, depending on how you outfit it. But as I've shared with my other configurations, it's so versatile. It's why we have moved multiple times with these guys. I won't go anywhere without them because I use them in closets. I use them everywhere. Pantry, clothes storage, now for my gift wrap station. It's the only reason I use the little things on the side. Otherwise, they don't really get used very much. But they keep everything where I can see what gift wrap I have. So I have kind of Christmas here. I have Hanukkah and more like generic. It could be for anything here if I'm not sure if somebody celebrates Christmas specifically and I want to just have like a more generic paper. I have like just like a general green or blue. And then in the back, I have birthday, baby shower, and just neutral like brown, kind of butcher paper and white butcher paper for just plain wrap. And then inside the cart itself, what I love is these little tags that you customize. Let me take out this. That one has a tray that sorts it in there, so it's a little stuck. And I just make my little labels, and it has these little drawer organizers inside. So this one has my scissors, my writing utensils, all my little gift tags. Guys, I got this guy from, come on, you guys know I love Snoopy. I got this guy from Costco because it had 5 Snoopy ones.
I love it.
All the same, just one, but I didn't care. Like it was worth it. But it was $12, and actually I think it was $13.97 for 100 of these really nice quality. Only 5 of them were Snoopy, but they're all amazing. And I needed them this year. I buy them like every few years because they just have the best price going. And they're like, some of them are so stinking cute. Come on.
Oh,
They're just
that's
all like,
very
they look
cute.
very handcrafted. There's like little bears. They all have little
Aw.
ties, so they work with pretty much anything. Come on.
Cute.
They're adorable. But I have ribbon in here. I have my packing tape. If I'm mailing something, I need to wrap a box to send. Double-sided tape, going to talk about that more in a minute, and gift tape. And of course, I've got a couple of pair of scissors because one will always go missing. And everything that I need at my fingers right here. And this guy just hangs on the end. This just says tape, tags, and pens. This one says tissue paper and bows. So I have all of my tissue paper in here. So different colors for different, times of year. I try to buy kind of generic, not holiday specific, so it goes with anything. And then I keep my bows in here as well. Very roomy, very easy to get to it. And down here I have my gift boxes. So any boxes that I need for shirts or clothing are in the bottom that I can unfold. I like to get boxes that are already wrapped or have a theme to them.
Little pattern.
And
So
then
cute.
I just reuse them pretty much year after year because they, they can be used year after year. They're great. And then gift bags, you can't see it, but gift bags are in the bottom drawer. And again, they're just sorted by size from smallest on top to larger on the bottom, where I can just flip through and grab one out and go with the flow. Everything in one place, all labeled, wheel the cart. And what I love about this is when all the families here, because everybody comes in, they typically mail any gifts here. They order them and mail them here. And I just put them all wherever they're staying in the house so that when they get here, their boxes and they're not open, they're all ready to go. And then they just take the cart when they need it to wherever they're going to wrap their presents, and everything's there and they don't have to worry about, hey mom, where's the whatever, everything's together. Doesn't this just look very neurotypical? It's my thing that I just love so much. And I have to say, to get it to this place, that I had a laundry basket full of gift bags. I had a tub full of these everything. And I was like, okay, I'm going back to using this as a gift wrap cart for at least the next few months because it's much more functional. But I had all these gift bags that were filled with like the paper that was in it from before. Then I took it all out and threw it all out and cleaned everything up and got it ready. All right. So that is the getting set up tip. Next, get your favorite supplies. So my favorite supplies are gift bags and tissue paper. So I just want to share, I worked at the Container Store for a few years. I think I've talked about that before, when my youngest started preschool. And I'm just going to get a little bag out. And gift, oh, that's a very used one, isn't it? It's like all wrinkly, but hey, that one won't be used. I'm glad I'm seeing that now because that one won't be used again, but it's good for a demo side. Every year they do gift wrap Wonderland. It was one of my favorite things. If you've never been to Container Store this time of year, it's worth a visit, particularly because they have very unique stocking stuffer gifts that they only carry this time of year. When they sell out, they sell out. Sometimes you can still order them online if the store that is near you is out of them, but they're unique, they're fun, they're sometimes, like they range from affordable to, are you kidding me? I'm not gonna lie, but I love that when I go and shop for them, I feel like I'm getting some things that they probably wouldn't have seen before, and they're just fun to like watch them open their stockings. But the best thing that I learned at the Container Store was some wrapping tips. So I just wanted to share some of those with you. And the simplest, easiest one I'm going to start with, I'm going to get some white tissue paper here. This reminds me of what is the Reese Withers Legally Blonde?
Legally Blonde.
This reminds me of what was that? The something and the flip and
The bend and
dip.
snap.
Bend and snap.
Works
This reminds me of the bend and
every
snap. Yep. This is the flip and tuck. So you take your paper and you flip it at the wrist and tuck it, and it makes this perfect little,
Boom.
right? So I'm just going to show that again. So you take your
Look in the
single
middle
sheet
there.
of paper. I used to never understand how people got their paper to look so pretty.
Yeah.
And you just make a little peak in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect of the paper, and just flip it. And then you grab it at the bottom and you tuck it into your bag.
Gorgeous. Look at that.
Come on. I remember I was like, Are you kidding? I learned how to make those at the Container Store.
Ooh.
I know. Things that I was like, oh, I used to think people were like crazy for how much time they spent wrapping gifts. And then I was like, I made all the bows on the wreaths at the front of my house. And they last year after year. They're just lovely. Okay. So that's a quick little gift bag. And I love gift bags because clearly I use them over and over again.
Easy, yeah.
That one's not going to be used again. I'm so glad I caught that. Tape dispensers. Becca, would you do me a favor and grab me my tape dispenser? So you can, thank you. You can use, thank you. This is my favorite guy. I keep these in here because I don't want the kids walking away with my tape dispenser.
Yeah.
I don't like anything I have to hold on to while I'm wrapping. So one of the things you can do is just take your tape off and put it on the end of a flat surface, as long as it's not going to damage that surface. And Scotch has this gift wrap specific tape.
Ooh.
Personally, I like the clear tape the
Yeah.
best, the red box of Scotch. And I like a tape dispenser because I can use it with one hand. Of course, I'm not doing a great job of sharing that. Got stuck there. I can use it with one hand and wrap without having to make a line of tape. But my other thing is double-sided tape. So tape dispenser, huge thing. Remember they used to make the I don't remember what they were called, but like it was like a Scotch did it. It had the individual pieces of tape that would just dispense one piece at a time, and it had the little wrap. I couldn't find it anywhere this year. I didn't love them, but I thought I could at least share that. I don't think they sell them anymore. At least it wasn't on Amazon. I couldn't find them anywhere. So I'm wondering if they just weren't that big of a hit, because they weren't the easiest thing to use. You always had to have it on your hand. So there really isn't much of a difference. I was looking at the difference between what Scotch calls their actual gift wrap tape versus the red box of tape. It's just completely clear. I think this one's just slightly more matted, so maybe that's why.
Oh, not like a glossy finish.
No. So that probably shows up even less because it doesn't have the shine to it.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and I'm not going to wrap the whole thing, but I'm just going to share you a tip that was a game changer for me at the Container Store when I had to learn how to wrap boxes, because we had to always do gift wrap demonstrations on weekends. And people would come in just to see how you wrapped gifts. And so we had to learn how to wrap gifts, which I still really do, because I just don't have the patience for it. It requires focus and time, and I like gift bags. I like to throw it in there and be done with it. So you get a piece of paper. You're cutting it to the size that it's going to fit on your box. So you put your box to the edge right here, and you want it to be the same size to wrap fully around. So this is not an exact example because I haven't cut it yet. Okay, so you're going to cut it to be coming right to the edge of the bottom of the same edge of the box, so it's exactly the right size. I'm going to show you it not quite there. Okay. Where I think we're going to cut this part back because I don't think I'm happy with my demo here.
All good.
But the tip is really to bring it to the very edge of the box. So even if you have extra, you put that guy in there, you bring it to the very edge, it's seamless.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that very well. Maybe I should use a different color, but it's seamless. And here's the thing, double-sided tape, game changers. Maybe you add it just to this part. Yeah. So again, you pull this guy up. This guy's going to come right to the edge. You put your tape down there, and because it's double-sided, pull it taut.
Oh
push it down.
How
Literally, we had to learn how to wrap gifts in 3 pieces of tape. One here, one on each side, done. And you can't see it.
No.
So it's just seamless. So that was really what I wanted to share. The double-sided tape, you just line up your paper so it comes right to the edge. Because it's at the edge, you don't have that seam going down the middle. And it even makes folding the ends in easier. So double-sided tape is definitely your friend for the holidays. Get right back.
Yeah.
I'm going to clean that up, so hopefully it comes out nice. Use pre-wrap boxes. So I shared the box. They're decorative. They don't need wrapping. Maybe if you want, you can like add a tiny little bow to the top just to decorate it, or you can tie some ribbon around it. Ribbon I find to be a little bit fussy, but if you like ribbon, just, little, but I just stick a bow on there. If you can see this up close, there's tons of little stick things on there from bows of Christmas past. But it's totally reusable and it looks really fun. Skip the ribbon. That's a tip. Just let it go. It is definitely pretty, but it can be tedious. And I always say, like, let go of what isn't serving you. And for me, that's ribbon. So let it go. I do have a couple of ribbons in here just to kind of highlight that you can have ribbon. It's not my thing. Okay. Use sparkly tags to make the labeling fun. This is essential if you, like me, don't like labeling. I don't like the little details. I just want to wrap them and be done.
Yeah.
So having fun little tags makes it fun for me to label them. And then I like to have, I have all of the colored reds and greens and blues in here to be able to pull from to make it sparkly to write. So depending on what color the tag is, I might use a different color to write on it. It makes it easy. The other tip is to use just generic, either butcher paper or just white plain paper, or just traditional, simple little craft bags, and just take a little stamp and a little ink pad. Now, guys, I got to tell you, I have not used this ink pad because I tell you, I have no patience for a lot of the detailing stuff when it comes to wrapping. But if you're your kids going to school and they're bringing a little gift bag for everything, you're going to do a bunch of simple, this is just a regular white lunch bag. And you just take it and looks like the back. Stick your little guy on there. Let's see if he worked. Oh, he did. So you can just do a bunch of little stamps on it and make it decorative without spending a ton of money to make them pretty. And you can do that on the craft bags. You can use different colors, different stamps, if that's something that gets you going. Not for me, but just sharing it in case that's something that would be sparkly for you. My last tip around the sparkly supplies has to do with, get one of the guys out. Okay, so I love it. This is another Container Store guy. So when I bought this, was $1.19. It has a little window. This is for anything you make, baking wise, that you want to give, and then it just folds up into a little carrier. It's just adorable. But if you're going to put cookies in here, you don't just want to drop cookies or brownies or whatever, fudge, whatever the baked goods is you're making. You want to get, and this is another really sparkly thing, these wax covered tissue paper. It's food grade tissue paper, wax paper that they sell in stores. Container Store has several varieties. And so it's just made to safely wrap your food in so that you can give it as a gift and not worry about there being something on the paper that is going to impact the flavor of what you're giving. So I love these little window boxes. They come in different shapes and sizes. This guy stands up tall. They're super fun. Okay, the wax paper, tissue paper for food gifts. Some additional tips. Stick to one wrapping theme. So I love to open a new roll of wrap and wrap all of my gifts, especially wraps like this. I got this from the Container Store, so it's bulk. It has a ton and it's a nice quality. Here's something I also learned at the Container Store. I don't like spending a lot of money for gift wrap, but it does make a difference.
Yeah.
If you're using inexpensive, dollar store paper, it tends to rip really easily, which can be really frustrating when you just finished cutting it to your size and it gets caught on the corner just while you're just regularly wrapping it. Forget about even trying to carry it and take it someplace. It's just very vulnerable, where a thicker paper is going to fold. The creases are crisper, it folds nicer, and it just feels more substantial. So it looks better, it wraps nicer, and it holds up better. So I don't necessarily go all in. Like when I worked at the Container Store, I did buy Container Store gift wrap because I would get an employee discount. I personally would not buy it now because it is very expensive. But Container Store is kind of like a middle ground where I'm getting a decent wrapping paper and I'm getting it at a good price, where it holds up nicely. It's not quite as thick as the Container Store's really luxurious paper. Ooh. But if you're into that, absolutely go to town. They have beautiful, and they have lots of examples of, the ribbons and the bows that coordinate. It's beautifully done. But, something as simple as just buying some at the Container Store that's kind of like mid-grade, that has, I like when they have little lines on it that help you to line up what you're wrapping. So you can cut
helpful.
it, the little guideline, or, you know, even like some of them have the dual sided so that you can choose which side you're gonna wrap with. Like, I mean, this, there you are. The next is to wrap in batches. So I do not wrap as things come in. Some people do.
Yeah.
I love to wrap in batches, meaning I will take everybody's gifts out and I, you know, put on music, I close myself into a room and I separate them into who's getting what, and I label them. Like I will put like my husband's name on a post-it for each pile for who I'm wrapping for. And I just wrap them all at once so that it kind of gets me into a flow. Label as you go, label as you go, label as you go. I have wrapped gifts and completely forgot who I wrapped for and had to unwrap them. It's awful. So I've even learned how to, I have an example in here from a past label, you know, because we started doing Secret Santa a couple of years ago, and that was one of the things I threw out like 50 name tags. I think we're in that trash can. Because I realized we don't buy gifts for every person in the family anymore. But when I used to, we used to always give them 3 Santa gifts, if you will. And so I would write 1, 2, and 3 on the gift tag, and I would just use them year after year. If I could, like if they were reusable, because it would let me remember, like, I want them to open this one first, this one second, this one third. So label in a way that makes sense for you. I like to have the labels as much as I can, like right there, ready to go. So I'm labeling as I'm wrapping, and I just know enough about my brain not to trust myself to remember who is this for? What was in this one? It's very fatiguing for my brain. So label as you go. Pre-wrap generic gifts. This is a favorite tip. I don't always do it, but this is one of my favorite things to like go to like Trader Joe's or somewhere and get their little like candies or and just have little gift bags with things in it, just generic, so that if somebody comes and I don't have something for them, I can grab something that's very generic and a easy thing that I can just be like, oh, here you go. Because it's so uncomfortable to have nothing, that I just kind of, especially when I was in mom's group when my kids were little, it just felt like there was always somebody that gave me a gift that I wasn't expecting them to give me something, and to have a few things I could just easily grab and be like, oh, let me go and get yours. And I would just go and grab the bag and give it to them and have a label attached to it where I could just write their name on it, ready to go. Make it social. So maybe you don't like gift wrap because it's just not your thing. So if you can wrap with other people or even virtually, so it's like, okay, I'm not gonna have the camera where you can see what I'm wrapping, but we're gonna get on a call and do it. Make it social if you can. Or maybe you're wrapping gifts for people that this person, it doesn't matter if they see what you're giving. You guys just come together and wrap together. So make it social if you can. Set a timer. So if you have a lot of gifts to wrap and you cannot do it in one sitting and it gets overwhelming, maybe just give yourself 15 minutes to start. When it goes off, take a break, come back to it. Set the mood. Put on some holiday music or some upbeat music. I like to put on holiday movies in the background when I'm wrapping. So it feels more sparkly. So those are some tips to help you gift wrap with a little bit more of an ADHD friendly flair for your holiday gifts. And as always, I invite you to post on episode 163 if there are some tips that work for you to get your gifts wrapped in ADHD friendly ways for the holidays. All right, on for the book of the week. So this week, my book is Hello, Beautiful. This is by Anne Napolitano. And Anne is the author of Dear Edward. And this was an Oprah's Book Club book from 2023. I love this because it was based in Chicago, which I didn't know when I read it. It's an homage to Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, which I also didn't realize when I was reading it. I was like, they talk about Little Women. Again, it's a family that has 4 girls and they compare themselves like, who's Beth, who's Joe, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's funny. And I realized over the course of time reading it that it really does, it's like a modern day Little Women. It's very sweet. And say it's description very briefly in one sentence is, it's a book about 4 daughters and what is possible when we choose to love someone, not in spite of who they are, but because of it. I enjoyed it. So here's a quote of the week from Hello, Beautiful. We are not separated from the world by our own edges, We're part of the sky and the rocks in your mother's garden and that old man who sleeps by the train station. We're all interconnected. And when you see that, you see how beautiful life is.
Oh,
I love that because we love people, not for how we, how we want them to be, but for who they are. So no, actually it wasn't that little of a book. It was a decent size, but really enjoyed it. Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. That's it for this episode. Guys, wherever you are, I hope you are taking time to take care of yourself. And if you need a little bit more support, again, check out ADHDfriendly.com for lots of resources, both free and there's some courses, there's some planners in there that you can purchase, as well as a membership to check out, ADHDfriendly.com. Until next time, tally ho.